The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couture, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a joint production of the Black Wine Guy Experience and the Winemakers Pod.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boy MJ. It is another collaboration between the Winemakers and the Black Wine Guy Experience. This time we are recording live at the DTC, which is Direct to Consumer Wine Symposium in Concord, California. And we're just gonna have a slew of just different guests from all facets of the wine business who are here sharing ideas, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one that I think people in the business will learn some things that'll help them in their own businesses, and consumers will help them get educated about what's going on and maybe make their ability to buy wine better. So our first guest is Hugh Scallon, correct, Hugh?
That's right. You nailed it.
Vice President, Head of Video Activation for VaynerMedia. And MJ's had some time in person with Gary Vee.
That's my $100,000 podcast. He charged $100,000 till $150 for a keynote, so he gave me an hour's time. So I call it the $100,000 podcast.
That's underpriced attention.
Totally. And he brought a shot of Hermitage. Yeah. That's one of the perks of doing a wine podcast.
Absolutely.
So we're just so huge. So don't be afraid of the microphone. Come a little closer. Want to get that handsome face in there.
Hugh, tell us. So you're here, and you were part of the keynote speech this morning. Can you kind of give us a little idea of what it is that you do and what you were talking about today?
Sure. Thanks again for having me. It was great to be at the Wine Symposium today. Today we spoke about the democratization of modern video and the future of wine advertising. We call it TV 3.0. Certainly not here to talk about Gary Vaynerchuk's wine endeavors, but I do head up video activation at VaynerMedia. So we work with clients thinking about over and above social media. We believe that brands are built in social media, and part of my role is to add elements of additional scale to that, whether it be linear TV or streaming TV. I've been with the agency for about 18 months. Before that, I ran my own consultancy where I did some projects in the wine industry. And before that, 25 years in the business, client side, agency side, ad tech platforms. But we really felt this morning in the keynote that we wanted to send the signal that I feel that we're on the precipice of an age this decade when television can be accessed by smaller brands other than just the Fortune 100, especially through streaming, connected TV, OTT, go down the list. And what we talk to clients at Vayner about is thinking about the contextual creative that you develop in social and finding ways to potentially bridge that activation into streaming TV, your Plutos and Tubis and Hulus of the world. We have ads in Disney Plus and HBO Max and Netflix. So what we took the audience through today is really a different marketplace than they might think. Streaming TV is the number one way to watch television, according to Nielsen. And we showed them how smaller brands, specifically in the wine business, can develop TV creative and get up on air for less than they would think, as little as $500 from Hulu Ad Manager that we talked about. So TV 3.0 was the sum of the talk. And what that is really the TV that we know, the TV that's becoming more digital every day in front of our eyes. And for a lot of people, the fact that TV is social media. We have audiences spending several hours a day watching video on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. And we encourage brands to think more fluidly about how to win in that video marketplace as opposed to having silos that don't talk to each other.
Talk about, because you during your presentation, you talked about if you could share some of the statistics of like the amount of time spent on streaming. I think people don't realize how much time people spend on social, and like what you're talking about. I'm streaming this right now on TikTok.
Live on TikTok.
Yeah, live on TikTok.
What's your hashtags?
Oh,
You have to
I
add
gotta
some
have
hashtags.
hashtags. Yeah. Okay. Well, I haven't. When I finish it, I'll use a hashtag for the symposium once we end the
There we
live.
go.
There
Yeah,
you go. Exactly. But I was blown away by some of those stats.
My kid spends hours on TikTok and Instagram and all those things. He's 15. I know for myself, I spend way too much time on it. Now, streaming is a different thing for me. I'm not fully. We're still, paying the cable. We haven't gotten into streaming, but what you're talking about is whatever it is that you're watching on streaming. You're saying wineries can start to target locally ads that can be fit in, because for those of us that think there's no ads on streaming, that's just not true.
Well, there were no ads on Netflix until a couple months ago, but yes, there are more and more ads on what we get as streaming.
Yeah, YouTube has ads.
YouTube has ads. YouTube's number one way to watch YouTube now is on television, so that's a paradigm shift. But I mean, to go back to your original question, just start at the macro level and kind of work my way down. Some of the data we have indicate the average adult is spending about 2.5 hours a day in social media. Some Gen Z audiences are spending a movie's worth of time a day watching TikTok video. So to them, that's sort of a form of TV. We have cord cutters and cord nevers, the people that will never really get cable. I think one of the ways that the industry likes to look at, and I'm not sure if this is the best way, measurement is cross-screen measurement is a whole other podcast. If you want to go down and talk about Nielsen and go down the list. But one of the stats that we showed the audience today was 10.5 billion hours of streaming consumed in 1 month last year from just the top baker's dozen of streaming apps. And most all of them take ads. So the quantity is, the scale is significant. As TV becomes more digital and digital IP comes into TV, we have more ad opportunities for more people to bid against them. And I think that opens up opportunities at the micro level for wineries to begin to promote their product on television, especially where they can deliver it direct to consumers.
Interesting. So, I've heard the term screen time. So it's really kind of the fact that people are on a screen is would you say that's kind of at the heart of democratizing this creating this opportunity, is that people, I used to watch a TV show. I'd have my phone, my iPad, and I'm watching TV.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. You nailed it. We call it modern video for modern living rooms, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If you got to watch an ad, you can look at Instagram while you're the ad's going on, right, on TV. I mean, it happens. It totally happens.
Or you're following like a Twitter space or Twitter stream on the show. You're watching Breaking Bad or something like that, right? And there's conversations going on, and
the Academy Awards.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Those sort of things. So it's happening already.
There might be a QR code on the screen. You're already on your phone anyway. You're in a lean back environment, biggest screen in the home, brand safe content. You can engage with that content. If you had a Roku stick, you could basically point the remote at the screen. Now, if that was a winery, might be able to buy pretty quick.
I'm telling you, I've gotten out of my chair and gone up to the TV and gotten that QR code and looked at that company's website.
Yeah.
So
it's like direct marketing. All you need is a certain percentage of response, to drive the business. But we're going to have more and more interactive, connected TV ads. I think the other foundational point I should have mentioned earlier was some of the data from eMarketer. We have sort of this crossing the Rubicon moment last year, which was we have more non-pay TV homes than we do traditional cable TV, pay TV homes. And so in the audience today, we asked for a show of hands. How many people have cut the cord, got rid of the cord? And it fits the data. We're at about 50-50 now. So the critical mass of people that get their TV through a digital IP or a pipe or what have you, that's significant. We can see that media companies are racing in, consumers, with the pandemic, they raced in, obviously. So now brands are sort of trying to figure out, how do I catch up? And then maybe brands that never thought they could be on TV, there's now an on-ramp to television, the sight, sound, and motion of TV and the emotion of TV creative. That can happen for more companies than less. There's only 200 to 300 brands that are really on major primetime TV or what have you. Mm-hmm. There's a couple thousand on cable, and there's 1 million on Facebook and Google, what is the total addressable market for streaming TV for brands? If I told you there were billions of ad impressions available a month, that's a big market.
Crazy.
That is crazy, and I think it's timely because I've seen with influencer marketing, that's one thing, but I think what you're talking about, like I've seen brands that'll will drop, they'll pay like 10 influencers, so it's been $5,000.
It's big business.
But I think what you're talking about is more effective of the money, like to actually be on the big screen with a QR code, because actually then they can track it. Because on social, you scroll, you very hard. There are programs, but I know very few influencers that are going to be like, yeah, you can go into my profile and look at my stats to see how many I actually, So I think for when you're talking about direct to consumer, like this actually gets it direct. This is not, it's nice to be stylized, but when you talk about ROI, like you said, like the whole thing with the QR code, that's amazing, right? You just go boom, buy.
Well, yeah, let me double click on that one. We talk about VaynerMedia. We believe that we can build brand and social. Let's say, for example, that we are knocking it out of the park with a couple of influencers. We have video, right? We begin to put them on Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, go down the list. The algorithms are beginning to find right. It's telling me like what video works versus among a set, right? And let's say there's 5 influencers, but 2 of them we found right. Might be on TikTok or what have you.
Right.
Well, now I have that film. If I re-render it with pros like you guys, I could put that on Hulu and Tubi and Pluto. Well, wait a minute. That's TV 3.0. So I have a social media video strategy. I have contextual creative. I bridge that up into larger scale. I can now put my social video influencer on my TV in a single frame, like a phone, full vertical motion video. And in the aspect ratio of these beautiful smart TVs, I have room on the left and the right, a palette to put in QR code, the logo, and offer other stuff. And we're going to see more and more TV ads that look like smartphone video stuff like we see in the news.
Yeah.
There's just too much real estate to work with and too many bottoms-up opportunities to connect social video and streaming. And so it's emerging. We're starting to talk to clients about this. Look, Zig versus Zag, and find underpriced attention.
It's cool.
Cool, man.
Really cool.
Well, thanks. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, what are 5 things for wineries to consider real quick before they jump into this?
Well, I wrote 4 things, but
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or 3. All right, what are some takeaways? Give our people out there watching a few key takeaways.
Well, I think one of them is critical mass.
Okay,
right. We have critical mass of the audience after the pandemic in streaming TV. Right, 85 million homes. We have significant critical mass in social video, especially the TikTokification of these videos. Reels, shorts, Spotlight, Pinterest, go down the list, right? The second thing is really just the fusion of TV 3.0. It's right, the TV that we know, the TV that's become more digital for a lot of people, social media is TV, that think about the fluidity between those asset classes as opposed to like wildly separate siloed budgets or what have you. The third is the barriers to entry. They're going down for brands that would like to use television to add to their marketing mix, something they thought they could not do, could not afford. So you have digital marketing characteristics coming to TV. I think that's really interesting. And then lastly, just they're the tea leaves. We have streaming TV, NFL football Thursday night, Apple into MLS and baseball. Google's going to get Sunday Ticket.
YouTube got Sunday Ticket.
Yeah, exactly. YouTube TV is a viable product.
So that's going to kill like ABC. That's going to kill because.
Well, I think it's a big pie. But
you were saying
audiences.
Football makes up the majority of Nielsen ratings.
Yes, the top programs they're definitely football.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then, like I said, maybe the last thing was that you can migrate and bridge your social video onto the television and make them work together and get the kind of reporting back that you've come to expect from digital media over the last decade.
Cool, man.
Good stuff.
Thank you very much for being
thank
on. Everybody out there, we'll be back in a little bit.
Have a good conference.
So at the Pepper Mill, and he's really impressed by the conversation, And I'm in Reno, and I'm a beverage director, but I've built this like studio where we're recording shows, and would love to have you come out. And I was like, wrong black guy. I'm like, first of all, I'm like wrong guy. So I just sat on, so I sat on it for a second, right, for like a couple of days, and then so I finally, when I was answering emails, I said, hey man, thanks so much for reaching out. I said, but I don't, I said, is the Peppermill in Reno? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, I didn't meet your colleague. I
was gonna say, when were you in Reno?
Exactly.
That's where I went to school. I spent some time.
I was like, nah, man. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, oh, okay. Well, great content anyway. So, and some dude did approach me. He's like, do you mind if I use BLK wine guy? And I didn't even respond. I was like, brother, it's not, I own it.
Have you met me?
I mean, I have every, so anyway, that was just fun. So I was like, I just could have had so much more fun with that. Like I could have went the whole, we all look alike. I could have just busted his chops.
Presidential suite at the Peppermill.
Exactly. Right.
Shows.
But I said, I think I know who your guy talked to though. And that guy lives in Reno, so I'm sure like he's probably, I don't know. It's funny.
Look, from when you could be the black wine guy to the fact that there's a black wine guy in Reno, having lived in Reno for 10 years, that's like a really good progress in the world. That's progress. There's a wine guy in Reno. Period. He's a black guy. It's like mind blowing. My mind is blown over here.
Okay, and welcome back to the Winemakers. We are next.
Pour some wine. Oh my God.
We are next joined by Steve Gross. Steve is from the Wine Institute. Dun, 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 dun. Steve, welcome.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
I thought Steve spoke at the keynote speech this morning, and kind of gave us the download on what's going on for you folks that can't get wine shipped to you easily.
Like me.
Yeah, exactly. And so the question is what's going on? What's positive? What's negative? And
Sure.
And thanks for being here.
Well, happy to be here. It's interesting. You got the guy who always does PowerPoint slides with maps, trying to do a podcast and talk about what things look like out there around the world. But this symposium is always a great chance to update the folks in the industry, especially the people that are focused on the DTC channel, about what's going on out there in all the states. And my role at Wine Institute is to oversee our lobbying activities in all the states around the country, and to open up these markets. I've been at it for 37 years, and when we started, there were no states you can ship to. Now there's 47.
Damn. There was no states you could ship to at one time.
Nope. Couldn't cross state lines as of 1986 when I started doing this.
Wait, in the 80s you could?
That was my first harvest.
That
was 1986.
Yep.
And you know what? I guess you're right. I guess there wasn't any direct to consumer then. People would come and pick it up at the tasting room, and they would have to figure out their own way to get it home.
Or they had never figured out that you couldn't do it.
Right.
I think that was part of it too, perhaps. But,
leave it in their hotel room.
Yeah, it was. It's been a sea change over the course of the years, but it's been hard fought, and lots of changes have taken place. And that's kind of always been my role at this conference since we started it, of kind of filling people in. So, I kind of tried to break it down into categories this morning. There's 3 states out there left that totally prohibit DTC shipping. You've got Delaware and Mississippi and Utah. And I mentioned that, we did try in 2 of those states last year, in Delaware and Mississippi. Weren't successful yet, but we're going to be back. We have some momentum built up in Delaware.
Because Delaware is like the corporation state. You think they would be down for business.
Well, there's some influential retailers in the state who would prefer we didn't ship. Gotcha. You also have so the wholesalers and the Teamsters who work with them have been very instrumental in blocking us in Delaware. So we're continuing to fight there, trying to open up Mississippi, and then Utah is the third one hanging out there that remains an ongoing challenge, and it's one that we'll continue to try and open up. But one of the things I tried to make clear today too is it's not just about opening new states. It's about keeping the states open and improving the systems that are there in all the states, because you do have some states that had, when they originally passed their rules, are not open to all wineries. You have a few places where you have a capacity cap. Wineries over 250,000 gallons or part of a conglomerate that's over 250,000 gallons still can't ship into New Jersey. Used to be the case in Arizona and in Ohio.
Jersey.
We fixed those recently.
Fucking Jersey.
See, I didn't say that during my presentation.
Yeah, no.
You can. And then, we have a couple other things. There's on-site restrictions in a couple states. I talked about that both Arkansas and Rhode Island require the consumer to actually physically be at your winery. So when they place their order,
that's okay. It's Arkansas.
Yeah, it
I'm
precludes
not buying a lot of wine from Arkansas.
We're
Rhode Island,
optimistic.
though,
Yeah.
Rhode Island's the Northeast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who drink a lot of red wine.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Or just it's that winery lifestyle. People like to visit wineries,
It is, but it also it certainly makes it harder for the consumers in those states to be able to do what the consumer right across the border could do. So
yeah.
we continue to fight and try and open those up. We also have had more recently some other kinds of challenges, to our partners in shipping, the fulfillment houses that a lot of the wineries depend upon to ship their wine out across the country. Some states have tried to crack down and stop fulfillment houses from being able to do this, and they're important partners in this business. So we've worked hard to try and keep those channels open. They've gone after the common carriers in some places, FedEx and UPS, trying to make them responsible for knowing what's in the box so that they could report
olive oil.
Yeah, that Susie wanted Merlot.
To quote Uncle Bobby, the transport never opened the package, right?
Yeah.
Never opened the package. That is the transporter never opened the package.
Never opened.
So my world is to make sure that everybody follows those rules and that we keep the channels open for everybody. So we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort in trying to ensure that the statutes that are passed in the states work for the wineries and to make it so that this is a viable chain of commerce. It's, the ship compliant people are going to be doing their report tomorrow, along with the wine business guys. And last year was $4.6 billion worth of revenue, of what our business was done DTC from the wineries.
Wow.
That's a big change when it was a market that didn't exist, just 35 years ago. So being able to protect that and keep it viable has been important. And that's a big part of what my colleagues and I at the Wine Institute work on all the time.
I also thought it was interesting as direct to consumer opens up for distilling and for beer, how you were talking about how we also, while it's great for them, we have to protect our own industry because they come under different rules, or rules could be looked at differently from those different industries.
It's true. And, we have our statutes have been on the books for a long time, but now they're coming along, and those folks, especially during the pandemic, looked over and saw what their colleagues, the wineries, were able to do, and realized that as microbrewers and as distillers, they weren't able to do the same thing, and they want to change the rules so they can. The opponents to allowing them to do that have tried to leverage the fact that there's been a DTC bill for spirits introduced or for beer to go in and chip away at what the wine industry would be able to do. Say, okay, yeah, you can do it, but it can only be of, companies under a certain size. Mm-hmm. They've tried to reintroduce this idea of a capacity cap for distillers or for brewers, saying, we got to block out those big guys. Well, we don't want that to happen in the wine industry. We worked really hard to make sure that every winery, regardless of their size, can do direct consumer shipping, because each of those big wineries also has library wines and small brands and things like that their consumers want to get. And it shouldn't matter what size the producer is. Anybody should be able to take advantage of that law as long as they follow the
if
rules.
you want to buy a Pothic Red direct to your house, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
No, but from a small producer standpoint, I kind of want the Gallo purchasing power in the shipping world. If there's more shipping going on, everybody's shipping either that or UPS and FedEx are going to make a giant amount of money, but hopefully it just opens this up and you have Gallo joining with, the Wine Institute going, hey, New Jersey, let's make shipping wine easier to consumers. And that's, it's a place where, there is alignment between the needs of the small, the small producer and the big conglomerates.
Yeah, and I think we've done a good job on the wine side of keeping everybody on the same page and trying to work together, and it's benefited everybody.
Let me ask you a question: how does one become an advocate? What's your background? Were you in the wine? Are you a lawyer? Like, how did that like?
Back when I started this, I studied public policy, and but I bartended my way through college at the bar.
There it is. It's always there somewhere.
All of the Nebraska legislators drank, and so it was a good way to figure out how to become a lobbyist in the wine industry. Was to know. I mean, I learned more behind the bar, listening to people come up and talk to state legislators and try and sell them something, and then the lobbyist would walk away, and I heard the legislators talk amongst themselves.
Yeah,
I worked and didn't.
That guy's not getting shit for me.
Yeah, totally.
He's full of it.
He screwed me on that park thing. He's done.
Yeah. And it was a great way to learn. And I've had the fortunate thing of doing this now for 37 years and having a great team of people out there across the country who represent us. And, you know, I have a team of 6 full-time people that work for the Wine Institute who oversee our regions, but we have contract lobbyists in every state except North Dakota right now. So it's a big operation, and there's nobody else out there in the entire alcohol beverage world that actually does quite what we do at the Wine Institute. And that's how we were able to get the direct shipping stuff done, was through that structure.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we thank you. Seriously, man.
Anybody out there listening in the consumer world, if you get wine that shows up at your house,
say, thanks, Steve Gross.
Thank you, Steve Gross. Send what kind of wine do you send gifts to?
I'm an equitable drinker.
Okay.
So the Wine Institute is on the internet at wineinstitute.org.
Correct.
And I think you're on Instagram also, right?
I believe we are.
At Wine Institute. Yeah. So give them a follow, give them some support.
Yeah, give them some love.
And if
we're not all afraid of you.
It's the Wine Institute, it sounds very authoritarian. You know, it's like an authority. Does. It's the Wine Institute. And I'm like, usually those kind of places don't let me in, you know?
They chose the name in 1934, so perhaps
fair enough. It's got that.
Okay.
All right.
That was a big thing in marketing back then.
I have a 70s era Wine Institute member sign.
The blue metal.
The blue one that looks like a street sign.
Yeah,
my uncle had one of those too.
Crew got switched over.
Yeah, those are collector's items now. Yeah.
So, Steve, if you're, our listeners are lots of industry, but there's also a lot of consumers. Yeah. What would you tell a consumer in any state? How do you keep this channel open? Because we love receiving wine and buying wine from the people we hear on the podcast, and how do we keep that going?
The whole symposium that we're here for is a fundraiser for Free the Grapes, and that's our consumer and media outreach partner that we work with on all of this. And freethegrapes.org is the website you can go to. You can sign up, and in your state, when we're doing a campaign on any of these bills in the state, through the freethegrapes.org, any consumer can go on there. We have suggested contact emails and stuff that can go to key legislators in your state. We'll craft the message for you. You can deliver it through the website. It'll go to the people that represent you in your state to let you know, or let them know that you care about having wine shipped. So the freethegrapes.org is the tool for both the wineries that would be interested and the consumers to go on. And in a state where we get a really big campaign going, like we have right now in New Jersey to try to get rid of the capacity cap, we even create a Free the Grapes chapter in that state that would be Free the Grapes New Jersey, for example. He's
calling me out.
I know. If only we knew somebody who was influential in the wine business based in New Jersey.
Some guy.
And maybe if there was anybody else in this room who.
I don't know.
But so that's a great question, and the best thing they can do is go through that website to get engaged.
Freethegrapes.org.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks for talking with us. Thanks for
all
the.
Thanks for what
but
you
more
do.
importantly, thank you for freeing the grapes,
standard
brother.
of keynotes, MJ. The standard of keynotes. I think we have a lot to live up to tomorrow.
Manage that expectation.
All right, maybe no more keynotes on this, Barbara. I don't want to be any more nervous.
Steve, thanks a lot, and we'll make sure that all that information is on our social media. So
terrific.
Cool.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, man. like when I started my podcast, I was like, I was born to do this. What's up, everybody? It's your boy MJ. I'm here with my friends Bart and Sam from the Winemakers Pod. And another joint collaboration. We love doing this. It's like the third or fourth. Well, solo with you, but like the third time we've done something. Because you guys had me on.
So fourth, including when I was on your show.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But love these guys. And we have with us the lovely Shay Frechette, winemaker from Washington State. I'm going to have her introduce herself because just we're live at the DTC Symposium, and I don't have
beautiful
all my research.
downtown Concord, California.
Exactly.
There was no research done. There was no planning done. We showed up with our suitcase of microphones. Barbara, thank you very much.
And again, Barbara, thanks for having us.
There was some planning.
But remember,
it wasn't us that did the planning, but there was planning.
But like, I was like, Barbara, like, she approached us, like, we're like, you know, keynote, that's like a strong word for guys like me and Sam. It's kind of, we riff. So I met Shay when I did, if you watch my Live from Walla Walla podcast, she actually was in the audience. I met her, amazing winemaker, female, Black woman. Come on now.
Come on now.
So Shay, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, this is a second career for me. I don't know if you know, I was in corporate training and organizational development and leadership. And my husband and I, we were just like, let's have a baby and let's do something different. And we didn't know what it was. So we ended up flipping a coin. And we said, if it landed on heads, we're going to move to Washington. If it lands on tails, we're going to go to South Carolina. So I was like 2 glasses of wine in.
Where were you?
We were right here in California. I know, I'm kind of back to my roots.
That's interesting.
Southern California, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in Southern California and just decided, flip a coin, let's move someplace different. And that took us to Washington State. And I wanted to do something that would give me goosebumps. And I loved wine. So I thought, you know what? Let's get into making wine, growing wine grapes.
So it was moving to Washington State. It wasn't like we're going to go there and make wine. It was go there and figure out what, but you loved wine already. You were already into wine.
It really was, we wanted to raise our kid near grandparents. So that's why it was South Carolina, where I'm from, or Washington State, where my husband's from. But coin landed on heads, which took us to Washington.
Cool.
And then I was just like, if we're going to move, let's do something that gives us goosebumps. Let's do something different. So yeah, we love wine. And, you know, both of us have ag backgrounds too. Right. And so we wanted to grow wine grapes.
What's your ag background?
Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so my husband's family, they have over a 100-year-old wheat ranch in the Palouse over in a little town called Colfax. And my family, we grew row crops. In South Carolina, you can grow a lot of, okra, tomatoes, butter beans. I mean, you
Rich
name
soils and rain every other day.
The best like rice growing in the world, like
right?
like the reason rice is a thing in South Carolina.
Why they call it the low country, right?
Oh yeah. Oh,
I mean, you know, so like it's like people. Yeah, I mean, South Carolina rice. That's why slaves were imported from West Africa, because they knew how to make rice.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and a lot of other stuff. That's what soul food.
But I say, and so like, I mean, that whole thing, like, you know, like, I mean, you think about, like, we're here on the West Coast, we're in California, and so many crops here, but like the local produce down there. So you must did your family, like, so did they have their own land, their own farm, or
we did? You know, interesting. So my family, when I think about my grandmothers, like all they knew was working on farms all their lives. Didn't even finish school. And same thing for my mom. So we owned a little bit of land, but we worked on a whole lot more of it.
Got it. So you want to do something that gave you goosebumps.
Oh yeah.
How did you learn how to make wine?
Right.
Goosebumps entirely fear-induced in this case. Right?
I know.
I mean, it's that thing I always say. So you quit your perfectly good job
Exactly.
to get into the wine business.
Okay, let me tell you, when you're drinking wine, you think you could do anything, right? Let me tell you, after this podcast, when these bottles are half empty, all of us are going to be thinking we can go do something. I could be a pilot, right?
We could be podcasters.
Well, Barb could probably be a pilot.
Come on, Barb, let's do this. You know, so for us, I mean, I started WSET, and so for me, that gave me the opportunity to learn about wines of the world and different winemaking styles. And my husband, he went through the 2-year enology cert program through WSU. And so, and then out of nowhere, Charlie Hoppus, who owns Fidelitas, was like, you kids look like you are confused. Let me take you under my wing and tell you what, you know, just kind of give you some guidance. And so he allowed us to work out of his facility for a few years before we built our own facility. Cool. And so he was just I mean, gosh, helping us to really identify our style, teaching us to never cut corners. He was just a godsend to us.
Can you tell me about the vineyard?
Our vineyard?
Yeah.
So we have our small estate vineyard on Red Mountain. So ours is about 2 acres, but we do a lot of sourcing fruit. So one of our growers is Shaw Vineyards, and they're the largest landowners on Red Mountain. But the cool thing about that is, although Red Mountain is so tiny, it is so diverse. I mean, for us, like we can make 4 cabs in a vintage from 4 different vineyards on Red Mountain. And that's what I love, as being a true expression of Red Mountain. And so although we love our estate vineyard, we actually acquired another 15 acres just right adjacent to our property that we'll be planting. But I don't know how much you guys know about Washington State, but water isn't something that they just hand out water right to. Right. So as soon as we get that kind of underway, we'll be ready to plant the rest of that acreage for 90% of our portfolio will be estate.
So we talk about Red Mountain a little bit because I was in Walla Walla over the summer, and that was my first experience. And we didn't make it to the Red Mountain side. We went to a bunch of other places. But people talked about it all the time. I know that the Valdemar, am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. They source some fruit up there, may have some vineyards up there, and it seems like
force majeure,
but it's like the elevation though, even on Red Mountain, if you're lower, your wines are totally different than what you can grow them when you're higher up on the mountain, right?
Yeah, and the thing about Red Mountain too, I mean, we talk about elevation. I mean, gosh, that mountain is like, I don't know, 1,400 feet, not even 1,400 foot, elevation. So we're not talking about like a huge mountain or anything like that. What I think is really important about Red Mountain is that we're on a southwest facing slope. And so there you get an amazing directional aspect to the sun. We're typically the warmest growing region in the entire state of Washington, getting about 6 inches of rain. So, I mean, if you're a farmer and you're farming wine grapes, you know how important it is to control your water, because we want robust fruit versus like watered down fruit, right? And we have these different soil types.
This wine is robust.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it's robust.
It's about to like make love to your palate. Let's just say that.
She is like
this one,
goosebumps,
yes,
making love to your palate.
Yes, this is one of the cabs we make, and although so the thing about in Washington, I will say Washington is known for a lot of amazing varieties. We grow over 70, with Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot being the 2 most widely grown. And on Red Mountain, it is planted mostly to Cabernet Sauvignon, but there are a lot of other really dope varieties grown there. I personally love working with Cab. We work with 3 clones of Cab. We source from 5 vineyards on the mountain with Cabernet Sauvignon. This one that I'm sharing with you is from Obelisco. And that vineyard's just, I keep using the word dope. Do you guys ever use the word dope?
Hella.
Is it like overrated or something? Because I want to just
like
no.
I mean, what?
Dope is dope.
Dope is dope.
Okay, can I?
Dope is back.
Right?
Dope.
I never knew dope went away.
All right.
I still say fresh from time to time. That shit's fresh.
Okay, that's fresh. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But dope is, I remember dope because it was like early 80s. I grew up, I remember when dope kind of hit. And I don't know how it went from dope like heroin to being dope. But
when dope went from being bad to good. Bad to good.
Probably when, not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good, like Michael Jackson.
Right.
Super bad.
Yeah. But no, you can say dope.
I can say dope. I love dope because wine is dope.
But
our powers combined when the Black Wine Guy Experience and the Winemakers Podcast get together. Yeah. The chaos. It's dope.
Drag you into it, MJ, but it's on brand.
Yeah. Oh, it's on brand. I mean, you've probably seen,
it's dope.
A shift.
It's this Cabernet. This Cabernet is dope.
Yeah.
It's dope.
The color is amazing.
So that's the thing about Red Mountain wines, though, that the skins are pretty thick. And so we do just pretty minimal extraction. Yeah. I mean, we don't do an extended maceration. We just don't have to get flavor and color. So
I mean, that wine is just layers upon layers. Like it is real bright, fresh fruit, and then it just sits on your palate, and it just continues to sit there, man, with some food.
She said it was gonna make love to your palate.
That's what I said.
And you know what I love about it?
It's like a Barry. Should be some Barry White music when you open the mouth.
Come on, Barry, come on.
In the same way that like you could pour a Rock Syrah in a glass, any producer, and I'd be like, "That's Rock Syrah." I don't know enough about Red Mountain Cabernet. I've had a couple when I was down there, and then tasting this, it's obviously not Sonoma Napa. It's this Red Mountain thing, and I love that so much that it's like it's not trying to be anything else and gets to be really good at what it's doing, because this wine is fantastic, and it just is so signature of what I'm starting to know as Red Mountain. It's cool.
And like you said, I went to Walla Walla for the first time in November. Walla Walla is dope.
It is dope.
It's
Walla
cool.
Walla's good.
Yeah. Did you get
It's
into?
actually not cool. It's hot.
It's
but,
hot.
I mean,
Hot poop. Did you get into? That's what I was about to. Did you get into hot poop when you were there?
No, man.
Oh man, hot poop is this like? If you know what I'm talking about? It's this record store.
oh yeah.
Right on, like, and the guy is.
I was like, you curse. I'm going to say hot shit.
It's no. What's great is I got a shirt from there, and Althea all the time is like, "Oh, Dad, are you wearing your hot poop shirt today?" I'm just like, yes, I am, dear. No, but this guy's like borderline hoarder.
Okay.
The store is packed to the gills, all kinds of records, instruments, posters, and it's just like it's a cavern. And on top of that, he had really good air conditioning. So when I was there in July, I spent a lot of time and probably a considerable amount of money. My bag was a lot heavier coming home. That flight from Walla Walla to Seattle, I think the records on there was holding us back a little bit.
So, how many vintages are you in now? How many wines?
2011 was our first vintage. We will be bottling our 2021s in 4 months.
So talk about the 10-year progression of like, what were you doing 10 years ago? And as far as wines you were making, what you started with, what you're bottling this year, and kind of like what you're thinking about it.
Yeah, you know what? So we made a commitment early on. We were just like, we just want to stick to something, like find something, get really good at it, and stick to that. And I think we've done a fairly good job of it. We decided to do Bordeaux varieties, just from living in. When we were in Southern California, that was just kind of what we gravitated towards. And there's so many other winemakers that do amazing jobs with other things. So we just buy their wines, but we stick with Bordeaux. But we started with 650 cases.
Okay.
We're at 3,500 now. But I will tell you.
That's way more pallets.
Right? It is. Oh, yeah. Well,
when you see that in front of you, it's like, oh my God, what am I doing?
In 2014, we ran out of money. Because, I mean, making wine, there's a runway. It's not like you can't.
Never heard of that.
Somebody lost money in the wine business?
Right?
It's not lost. You know exactly where it is.
Exactly right.
It's in a warehouse. Right. It's in a winery. It's in some barrels.
Right? So
some would say squandered.
I know where it is. It's not lost.
We paid for 2 years, and so we age our wines for about 2 years.
Yeah.
So we paid for 2 years, and we open up right at the end of the tourist season. And so I'm just like, wow, all the money we spent's not coming back in. And so now it's time to put contracts in for 2014. And we're just like, we don't have any money. And so we made about 200 cases of wine for the 2014 vintage. And that really was a wake-up call on, you can just love making wine, but you also have to know how to sell that wine, even if it's high-quality premium wines.
Yeah.
And especially if people are saying, hey, do you want some of this? And if you love making wine, you're like, yeah, I'll take a little of that. I'll take a little of that.
Oh, you got some grapes?
Like the growers are all like, we got a sucker.
You're billing me for these?
They got a sucker. Go hit up the Frichettes. They're new in town.
Right.
They tell them they want to experiment with us. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yep. Right.
So,
that's a whole different set of goosebumps, though.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Not in a good way.
No, not the good goosebumps.
No, but we're having a lot of fun. We introduced a new label to our portfolio called Sachet, and that happened because I went to an event called Celebration of Black Women in Wine. Was so inspired because I had never seen a Black female winemaker, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally dope. I'm going to step my
There's
game
that
up
word
in production.
again.
So I know I'll probably
fitting.
count it. I would probably use it at least 3 more times before we finish this.
It sounds fine.
This was a
coming from you.
dope.
It's,
Right.
it's when I
You
come
can do it
everybody-
too.
Bart, you're dope.
Do it
Bart,
too.
you're dope.
Do it.
No,
Dane would not let you get away with it. Dane would be like,
Yeah.
what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, well-
yeah.
No,
He's
Bart
a dope,
became
not a
more
dummy.
dope
That's what I
when
used to
you
say about
said
my
that.
dog.
Yeah.
I love it. Bart, you are dope. You're dope. So I just wanted to set my game up and, created this label. So making a Syrah under that one and a rosé. But
Okay.
it's fun. I'm having a lot of fun.
And what are you hoping to take away from this conference?
So I love the
Good
marketing
question.
aspect of it. So the crazy thing
Every
is
now
that
and then.
I know one of the things that I do for Shetts is the social media aspect. Not all digital media, but specifically social media. So short form video. First off, I'm not trying to do the podcasting thing. You guys are already pros, and thank you so much for elevating wine and telling the stories
Thank you.
of folks in wine. So,
almost pros.
oh, you
Yeah.
guys are dope.
Allegedly.
Let me tell you, you're
I'll
dope.
take the dopeness.
Oh
but
yeah, right.
but,
Hashtag y'all dope.
Y'all dope.
So I really want to become, I'm in it, like in almost every part of our business. I'm in the vineyard, I'm in production, I'm in my tasting room, I'm working side by side with my team. I don't think I capture that enough. I get so much in the process of it that I don't pull my camera out and capture those things. And so
Totally.
I really want to be better about that. And I'm already getting tools from the workshop I was in this morning that can help me with that.
Awesome.
Really cool. Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you come to New York, we could sit down and do a whole big long podcast. I'm
Full
sure
show, taste the
they
wine.
would come. You can go to Sonoma. I'm sure these guys would have you on for.
Tell us how to find you on out there in the world. Website.
How they can be a part of what you're
Social
doing,
media.
Sashay.
Yeah, be
How they
a
can
part
be a
of
part of
it.
your
Can-
dopeness,
We didn't
queen.
even talk. You have
I
a
mean,
tasting
look at
tasting
this.
room.
It's
I know.
Is there?
That is sexy.
Come on
That is cool. I
now.
know.
Yeah, right?
That is.
Can you
that's
believe
sexy.
an artist who taught himself to paint did that for me?
Doesn't everybody teach themselves to paint?
Well, right. Okay, well, there you go.
Something
There you
like-
go. There you go. There you go.
I did not. So and nobody else taught me either.
I guess I'm not that.
I mean, I can't. I mean, we all come on, man. Finger paints.
That's why.
My dad was a painting contractor, so I painted houses.
Right, you know how to paint
Wow, you
straight
know how to paint.
lines,
Exactly.
up and down.
Song. Wax song.
That's too many. That's 2 Robert Kamen references this show.
Oh
no more.
my gosh.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, please tell everybody where they
you
can
know what?
find
We're
you.
at Frechette Winery on all of our platforms, and that's FRICHETTE. It looks like Frechette, but it is Frechette Winery.
Because it's French and not Italian.
That's right.
Right.
Look at you. You are dope.
I play dope on a podcast. No, I play a dope on a podcast. Maybe.
It's not so much that he's dope, but he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
I'm hoping to stay. I'm hoping to stay at a Hilton tonight. We'll see how that works.
You better find you some dope friends.
Thanks so much, Shay.
This is
Really
fun.
appreciate you.
How do you- is there a tasting room?
Oh, yeah.
If you're up in
Oh,
if you're up in Washington, how do you
See,
come see it?
proprietor.
So,
Good call, proprietor.
No, yeah. So here's the crazy thing. I live on property. My taste room's on property. My winery's on property. My vineyard is there. Everything is there. So when you come visit Frechette, you see all
You see the whole thing.
of
Because
Frechette.
sometimes you just like walk as far away as you can just to like get some distance.
I go
get some
hide in
space.
the vineyard.
You're like, I'm going to drive to work the long way today. Go
Well, isn't
through.
that what it's about? Like just getting lost in the vineyard. So
Totally.
yeah, when I need to get away, that's where I go.
So go visit Red Mountain. Check
do
it out.
it. Oh yeah,
Washington wine. It's the real deal.
do it. It's dope.
Washington wine is, I was gonna say, is dope.
It's dope. I would have never thought of that. How do you come up with these things?
We need a dope jar. So
I have a dope. Oh wait, no.
Wait.
I brought a couple.
We need a dope jar. Really?
Got some dope Ziploc bags too.
we're $1 donate it to what? Free the grapes.
Free the grapes. FreeTheGrapes.org. There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Brought it back.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Oh, it was a pleasure. You guys are
See
so
you
much
again.
fun.
Thank
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's our dope. If you haven't.
We were recording that. We're here with. I have no idea what your name is anymore. Shanna Bull.
Or online Sherere, which is
Sherere.
how a lot
Which
of
is
people...
no, that was totally
That's
like
almost how I was going to introduce
Sherere.
Sherere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was-
How did you come up with Sherere?
I did not. It was an inside joke at a marketing agency back in 2007. I worked at a marketing agency in Hillsburg, and Twitter became a thing, and I thought it was stupid. I think it's stupid now.
You're still right.
I've come back. But at the time, my nickname at my marketing agency was Sheree Ray because my maiden name was Ray. So Shanna Ray, Sheree Ray.
I thought I was like I was a big fan of the Martin Show, and I ripped off Shanae. Yeah, that's what I was hoping.
I've gotten that before.
That's what I wanted to hear, but
No, just
because that would have been dope.
I'm not that dope. Even in my 20s, not that dope. No, but a lot of people see my name online and they don't have any idea how to say Shanna. So my business cards actually have little pictures of bananas on it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shanna Banana.
Shanna Banana.
Fee-fi banana.
I freaking hate saying
Sheree.
Sheree. Shabobble sounds really dumb.
Shabobble.
So
Fair enough.
I wasn't going to change it. That's my brand. And so, yeah.
So,
so we first met through social media,
Yes.
and then we actually physically met at the Taste of Sonoma. I was pouring, and you and your husband Jeff came by, tasted some wine, got some beer koozies, I think.
Oh, yeah.
He's a beer guy, if I remember right.
We are both beer people.
Yeah, beer people,
You know what? In the wine industry, you got to be a beer person, I think. Sure. But yeah, Taste of Sonoma was my favorite event. I would make sure to go every single year because I either would work it or sneak in or get media passes. But the media passes, I write for Press Democrat, Sonoma Magazine, and the North Bay Business Journal.
And are you still doing some stuff with them?
I do. I have a monthly column in the North Bay Business Journal talking about social media, digital marketing, and the hospitality industry. Okay. So my latest one is coming out in a few weeks, and it's all about AI. It's kind of scary.
You mean let the AI create your content for
exactly.
you? Yeah.
I've been a writer for my entire life. I have children's books. I write, in my head all the time. But AI has been really exciting to kind of see what can happen. And I think instead of saying, no, I don't want to do anything with AI or artificial intelligence or Chat GPT, the people that embrace it are going to be the ones that can
that's the future. And I think for people like yourself who are writers, it cures writer's block, and it's learning how to use the tool. It gives you prompts. You can give me 50 email headlines, and it'll spit out 50 email headlines. And then you, as a writer, a wordsmith, you go wordsmith it. So I think it's going to be an incredible shortcut.
I think I might use it tonight.
Yeah.
Some shit to do.
Yeah,
it is honestly...
Maybe create a keynote on why podcasting is good for the wine business.
Yeah, and then you have to edit
first gig already replaced myself.
Exactly. Say it in your tone. Take some content that you have on the internet already, and it can detect your tone. Or try Gary Vaynerchuk, something like that. See what his tone, what that spits out. I mean, it doesn't allow curse words. So. Sorry.
So that's where my wordsmith.
Right. That's when you have to add a little.
That's where the human touch comes
human
in.
Human intelligence.
Let's make this real, people.
So what are you here? What excites you about this that we're at today? And what are you looking for to take home with you?
You know what? The wine industry has always been about connections for me. Yes, I do work in the wine industry, and I've done social media for countless wineries, but first and foremost, it's about seeing people that I haven't seen in 3 years or more. Right before the pandemic, I actually moved to Concord from Santa Rosa to be closer to my husband's work, when now he's in my backyard. So literally, I'm just here to hang out with friends. Cool. And learn something.
And what do you? So you're a writer, but aren't you a social media strategist?
I am. I have my own digital marketing agency that I've been consulting with people for years. Right before the pandemic and a little bit during the pandemic, I was teaching classes on how to, connect with people and post pictures on Instagram. Now it's all about video, though. And I haven't fully grasped video because it's even quicker than posting a picture. You have to do a lot more stuff with it, and I've kind of learning about that from the youngins in the the short form video session that was just about an hour ago.
So pay no attention to that woman in the corner.
Get a producer, immediately ignore the producer. Checks out.
Exactly. It's on brand. So it's too much fun. I'm not even.
Right, we're not even drinking.
We're not even drinking. I'm pouring it out.
You need some wine?
You have a rosé, or
Yeah, I have a dirty glass.
In my no, it's rosé. It's rosé. This is this is 21 Auto Tet. This is in the always be self-promoting.
Yes.
Ceaselessly self-promoting.
Okay, well, I want to take a picture of
21
that.
Auto Tet Rosé, which is getting released on Saturday, which is Combi's birthday.
Very exciting.
So shout out.
Is that a clean glass?
Yeah, or you can dump whatever.
Yeah, I can dump. I have that ability.
Ask that question, Anthony.
I lost it.
What question we got? What do we got?
There's like electrical strips in the middle of the.
Here.
This is why they don't let us have nice stuff.
Nah, man.
This is why you guys are the only ones drinking at this conference.
Yeah,
it's a wine conference and no one's drinking.
No, it's just because we like to drink.
Yeah, no, I am
Yeah.
gonna have a happy hour at 4:30 across the street at the taco place.
Oh, sweet.
Taco place happy hour.
Yeah.
Those are 4 of my favorite words.
So you talked about you've talked about like you started as a blogger, like your own, like you're kind of behind the scenes, but you do stuff yourself that's pretty dope, right? Like you have a little following there, a little cult following, if you will.
Sure. I'm a big fish in a little pond. I think in Sonoma County, I'm known. That's about it. But
It's a good pond. It actually is
pond.
quite literally a pond.
It is literally a delicious. No, but back in like 2008, 2009, I lived in Hillsburg. I was writing about events that I was going to, and they just happened to be at wine places. And so then I started getting invited to more, and someone called me a wine blogger, and I was like, sure. Wait, should I blog about wine? Okay, I'm going to start blogging about wine. And I always talked about my experiences. My blog was never about the terroir or the like tasting notes of wine or anything like that. I liked the experience of meeting people and hanging out with people.
Fist bump.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Yeah. Wait. Because that's kind of like my format. Like I'm not. I tell people when I interview them, Ross, if it's in the text sheets, we don't want to hear it. Like people can go to your website and look at the text sheets.
Yes.
Right. So it's like getting to know story. You guys do a good job of intermixing the two. Of getting like the stories about the terroir and then also the backstory, but like I just like to drink and talk to people, so
that's it for me. And experiencing new things.
Yeah.
In the wine industry, like that's why Taste of Sonoma was my favorite. I didn't even like drinking; I just wanted to eat. Right. So I mean,
I never got to eat at that because I was always pouring wine.
Yeah, no, I was the first in line. I was like, okay, mac and cheese balls. That was in the Gloria Ferrer.
Yeah, and then anything with pork belly.
Yeah, I mean that, and it's what August, September.
Real reasons we're in the
tomatoes.
wine business, bubbling to the surface.
Mac and cheese balls and pork belly.
Right. How's the rosé? Mac and cheese balls and pork belly.
And the sparkling wine that went along with it. I think mac and cheese and sparkling wine is one of my favorite pairings.
High-low.
Salty with sparkling wine.
And rich because it cuts through the cheese.
Yeah,
it
needs it.
It needs it, yeah, for sure.
But it's all about the high-low pairings of the thing right now, right? You're like sparkling wine and Lay's potato chip kinds of things, mac and cheese and wine,
Yeah.
KFC and champagne, KFC and Krug.
KFC and Krug. Yeah, I think that's probably the ultimate opposite ends of the high-low. And it sounds freaking delicious because also KFC and Krug are delicious, obviously. But
what if I put them together?
What happens here?
I was working for Iron Horse Vineyards for about 8
Great
years.
sparkling wines.
I mean, they are amazing.
Yeah.
And I had to say goodbye to them at the beginning of the pandemic because of other reasons. Cancer. I laugh about that.
No, and
it's gone. I wouldn't be laughing.
You were totally public about all of that too, and
embarrassingly public.
And through the pandemic, when health was on everybody's mind, and the only thing that we were doing was interacting in social and digital media. So that was,
I was going through
probably the only way you could have an
for,
outlet for that.
And bedridden and not working for a few months. But
please shout out the book that you wrote, that you co-authored.
I didn't write it. My son wrote a book. It's called Randall the Blue Spider Goes Surfing. And while I was bedridden, I had nothing else to do, so I found a publisher and we published a children's book.
Wow.
And I had a friend draw all the adorable pictures, and we have 3 children's books out. 3 children's books out now. And I always say that the target audience is the same. Moms. They like to drink wine, they like to read children's books, or they like to keep their children quiet.
They have to read
Right.
They like to keep their children quiet. and this helps with both.
Yeah.
Or at least helps you not hear.
So that's what I've been up to.
If we manage to find like a grain of really interesting, though, that is, the moms are making the wine buying decisions. They're making the children
decisions,
right?
Buying decisions in the home.
Yeah. Exactly. They've always been the ones going grocery shopping. There is a transition right now. The dads are helping more than any other previous generation, and I'm very happy about that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic when my husband and our son was home, and we did 60-40% of the work.
Oh, that's probably generous. He was doing really good.
It's all right.
I say that as somebody who aspires to that 40%.
That first week he came in, he was strong.
Right.
But you know what?
By week
During
19,
my cancer treatments, he did 100% of the work. So I will never complain about that again. And tonight, while I'm doing happy hour, he's going to be hanging out with the small child at home. I mean, I do bring the kid to the happy hour and wineries.
So for whatever reason, I know a lot of industry people listen to my podcast, and definitely being a winemakers pod. Like, if you want to give them like a tip for their
or shout out shout out your services.
Yeah, please.
You know what?
Ceaselessly.
I'm gonna start teaching classes again, but right now I'm not doing much of anything other than writing about different brands. So I'll be reaching out to everybody to get quotes. But yeah, you can find me at Sheree on Instagram and Twitter. I started tweeting again. I stopped tweeting for like the last 3 months, and because of this conference I started tweeting again. I thought it was fitting because wine Twitter got me into tweeting in the first place, so why not say F to the new owner of Twitter. I'm trying to be nice.
Nah,
he is
you don't
a
have to
tool,
be.
and
he is not dope.
I didn't want to be on
He's
Twitter
undope.
anymore.
He's like that South African at the end of Lethal Weapon 2. like that South African guy.
Yeah. Not dope.
Diplomatic
I'm
immunity.
frustrated at social media right now, I will be honest. But the people you guys are what keeps me like grounded and remembering that it's about the connections, and social media is completely about who you connect with and who you build relationships with, because 10 years later, you're going to come back on their random podcast and drink wine.
Yeah.
Sweet. Random.
Well, thank you very much.
Sorry.
No.
Thanks, Sheree Ray.
It's on point. Clearly. Should we just keep rolling? Keep rolling to don't stop.
Here, I'll just jump out of the chair.
Just jump out of a moving car. Just jump out of a moving car.
No, we producer said cut.
Producer says cut. Okay, we're back at the DTC Wine Symposium with 2 great guests. Barbara Gorder, who is the reason that MJ and I are here, I'm pretty sure. And the reason actually all of us are here.
Yeah.
The reason this is happening, you are the keynote chair for the symposium. You work with Free the Grapes also, but you're undisclosed location, not just where you are, but what you do. And then returning, the great, we did a Zoom podcast during the deep pandemic. Jason Haas, Topless Creek, nice to have you in front of a real microphone in person.
And nice to see that you made it out of San Luis Obispo County.
Yeah, that there was a way out.
It was close, and I had water up to my knees, but no, we're good. It's all good.
Right on. Well, so you guys, there's a lot of things we could talk to Jason about. We could do many hour shows.
We're not here for that. We can't talk about.
Right. We have the producer. Now the producer's on,
and the Beau Castel, and the Rones, but Jason, good. Also, I did a Zoomy thing with you.
Yeah.
Good to meet you, IRL, as
real
the kids
life.
say. What are you here at the conference specifically to speak about?
So I was invited by Barbara to speak on a small panel. It's just the two of us, but it's a panel on alternative packaging. And we, at Topless Creek, we launched a box wine version of our Patalenda Tablas last year as a part of our ongoing effort to try to reduce our carbon footprint. And it turned out to be a much bigger thing, both in terms of the attention it got and in terms of the success that it was than we were ever expecting. So I think it sort of opened our eyes to what the potentials are for non-glass bottle packages. And I think given the scale of the issue that it is, the fact that the package accounts for roughly half the carbon footprint, the glass bottle accounts for roughly half the carbon footprint
Hurts
of wine.
me because I love glass bottles.
I have my Climate Sin bottle.
I'm team big punt heavy bottle too.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm like
We'll
the
work
worst.
on you little by little.
Not gonna happen. I'm from Jersey.
Right.
Not happening.
But anyway, it's obviously bottles aren't going anywhere, and nor should they. But I think in order for wine to kind of fit into a more sustainable future, we've got to be thinking about what are the things that it's essential to keep in bottle?
Mm-hmm.
How do we minimize the impact of the bottles that we do have to use? And what are alternatives for things that don't necessarily need that long-term aging, cork, multiple years in a cellar?
So, go ahead.
Well, so Jason, coming from my side, how did the cellar and how was the packaging part of that? How did that work?
Like
out
on the
for
bottling
you?
line.
On the bottling line, like what were those?
What bottling line?
Right.
It was the boarding line.
That's what I mean.
The bagging line.
The bagging line.
The bagging line.
So
The bag and box line.
So that's one of the big hurdles, I think, that limits small to medium-sized wineries like us from jumping in on this in a bigger way, is that there's not the infrastructure that there is for bottling. Right. So we don't have our own bottling line either. We hire a mobile bottler. They come in and we bottle whatever 5 weeks a year. Right. There's no mobile box line that you can hire. So we had to rent we eventually bought
MJ's mobile box line.
Hey, a business opportunity.
Totally.
All of a sudden, you're not the heavy bottle big punt guy.
Well, at home I am, but out front, it's like evil. Like he secretly drinks wine in 2 pound bottles, but he's out here pushing the box wide on the market.
Checks out.
I was gonna ask you, and dovetailing on Bart's question is like, how long, like, what was like the decision making process? Because like this was a pretty bold decision.
Yeah, so it all came about from so let me step back. We've been doing wine in reusable stainless steel kegs through Free Flow, through their operations up in Napa, since 2012. So we're certainly open to alternative packaging and trying to reduce the amount of waste.
And that's all in the wholesale market.
That's all wholesale. Right. But I did a carbon footprint self-audit about 1.5 years ago, and using the California Sustainable Wine Growing Alliance's study and metrics that they came up with about a decade ago. And it really drove home to me how hard it was to make a meaningful improvement in the overall carbon footprint without addressing the glass bottle as a package. And we'd moved to lightweight bottles. We did that a decade ago. But still, that's the biggest single source of emissions that we have. So I posted the results of this self-audit in a bunch of places. I wrote a blog about it and posted it on our Topless Creek social media and on my personal social media. And it was a friend who commented like, hey, you included this graph that shows how much better a bag-in-box, a 3-liter bag-in-box is than any bottled option. And yet you aren't really talking about it as an option for Topless Creek. Why not? I spent a lot of time thinking about that. It's like, fair point. Like we aren't, because there's this stigma of like grocery store bottom shelf.
Yeah.
In
Cooking wine.
Yeah, it
Right.
may be.
Right.
But also, people say plastic bag.
Right. Hold on. I'll get to that.
Thank you.
That's an important thing.
Yeah.
It's an important thing. But so we felt like maybe we were, given the other environmental efforts that we make and the reputation that we have, maybe we weren't a terrible winery to try to take a crack at this stigma. And so talked it over with our team. Everybody was totally on board. We decided to do an initial little bit of our Patalena Tablas Rosé last February. We started with 350 boxes. And I was like, if you'd asked me to put an amount of time on it, I would have said that I thought we maybe would sell out in a month, and that was going to be a success. I thought if it was really great, we would sell out in a week. We announced it and sold out in 4 hours. So like I felt like we were really onto something. And we did it again with the Patalan Blanc in May of last year, and then the Patalan Red in August, and those both sold well also. And it got picked up in a lot of national wine publications, and not even just wine publications, as being, hey, this is the potential for at least a part of the future.
Right.
So that was how we ended up doing it. It was kind of, it felt consistent with the other efforts that we're making in the environmental space. We didn't try to sell it in wholesale. It was just direct to consumer, because we wanted to be able to message clearly what this was about, and because we were pricing this box at $95. It's not like, I mean, the most expensive box on the shelf at our local Albertsons is like $32. Right. So I didn't want it to sit on a shelf someplace and gather dust. I wanted it to go to people who were excited to try it, maybe who never really had a box wine before.
But that's great. I mean, the rest like $95 for some box wine. Like you couldn't put that on a shelf in a supermarket.
Yeah, I disagree. You absolutely could. And I think people are ready to receive that message.
I don't know. I've done a lot of retail.
It's by volume.
I mean,
by volume,
it's a hand sell though, Barb. That's a hand sell it's a Barb. If I know one thing, it's retail. Like even at Whole Foods, like you have to hand sell good shit because people just go for the floor stack. They go for the floor stack. They go when people usually go to. In my experience, you've done this a lot longer than I have in marketing, so I'm not. But my experience selling wine on the floor, that would be a hand sell at $95.
I think younger consumers are ready for it. I think that they are ready and more receptive to both organic messaging, alternative packaging messaging. The fact that you have people like Asimov, Jancis Robinson, all writing about this right now to bring attention to this. I mean, I don't think that it's as too much of a stretch, because Gen Z and younger millennials, they care about this. And Jason, talk about some of the feedback you've gotten from your wine club. I mean that shit sold out. I mean that's a resounding. I mean that right there, 4 hours. Yeah, that's it right there.
I think I sort of fall halfway in between the two of you. I know we've gotten.
Thanks, Jason.
I mean that's me, peacemaker. No, but I mean we've talked to our wholesalers. There's several, not all of them, but there's several who reached out because of the press that this got, and basically said, when's there some of this for us? And so we've asked them, like, what do you think the market is for $95 box of wine? And half of them were like, oh, wait, it's $95?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
The other half were like, well, let's talk about where we put this, in whose hands we put this. So I agree, it is basically a hand sell. I mean, I think that the places where it would do best would be independent retail, where you've got retailers who are there,
who are going to tell the Talbot Creek story,
but mostly tell the package story.
Exactly.
And then restaurants that maybe want something good to pour by the glass, but don't have a keg system in place. So I think we're a couple of years away from being able to just have it sit on a grocery store shelf and have it move on its own. But I think we have pretty good evidence that people are more open to this kind of a package than
and wholesalers are not known for bravery.
True that.
Which is why we're at the DTC Wine Symposium.
But I mean, I have to say that I started down this path about 8 years ago, and I was in a very famous, iconic Napa Valley place in a meeting with a very important person, and I looked at that person and I said, "Hey, have you ever thought about some alternative packaging that might be interesting?" And they looked at me like I was an alien with 3 heads. And then I got some really great experience a couple of years ago in the can market with Groove Wines, and
Guest of the pod.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, actually, I did a live with him. Barb hooked me up, and I was like, dude,
And
I didn't want to like your wine.
Cans
It's in
are,
a can.
cans are another way to go. Boxed wine, it's bigger in Europe. They have good wines in boxes in Europe.
No, I know that what we
And-
had at
and-
Whole Foods was good Monastrell and Vermentino from Spain, great box wines, old vine.
Why can't we do this? There is possibility, and so. I'm in the business of finding the very best people, which is why I found you, MJ, and you, Sam, and you, Bart, and you, Jason.
Clearly not all wins.
But I think there
One
is
out
a
of three,
message.
bad.
There is a message here, and I think that the most important thing that Jason and I have to say on the stage tomorrow is this is not instead of, this is in addition to.
Got it. Yeah.
And I think that people that care about the environment, I think that, you want to get millennials and you want to get Gen Z, you want to get them involved in wine, get them.
We gotta get them drinking first.
Well, there you go.
But this is how.
And this is one way to
how.
do how, as well as you have marketing real estate on the side of boxes.
Right.
Hello. You have QR codes, you have cans there's some amazing can
Barb's a
suppliers out there.
beast.
They're beautiful. I mean, it's like this is the way to get younger people to enjoy wine in the way that they want to, not just someone saying this is it and this is how you do it.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm sitting here daydreaming about Stanley Mass.
Well, I was
on the
saying,
side of a box
you know
of
what
wine.
came to me?
Like it hadn't thought.
What came to me was, remember album covers? Like I hated CDs because it was so
Right.
small. I remember the Stanley Mouse. The album cover was while you bought the album. Like people, like you could cut out they could create collages of these incredible
There's
artwork.
a fantastic example of a Spanish wine producer who did like a puzzle that like put it together that was a bag. It's all about portability. And I think that we all need to be thinking about this because the wine business, and I love everybody in the wine business because they're eccentric crazies, but I'm going to tell you that we have to, I know, right? But the point is that we all have to be better to the planet. And how can we do that? And that's why we're here talking about this. And that's why Jason, who has, not only does he make great wine, but he also goes out, he's a board member for Free the Grapes. He's been an advocate for the industry. So I think that if we all work together to try things, to try screw cap, to stop putting foils. Why do we need foil again? Help me understand that. Somebody
to cut yourself. I'm the worst. I feel like I'm so bad. I don't know. I feel like I'm like India in this conversation. Where, like how India doesn't want to have a carbon cap. I'm like, I love a fucking heavy foil. I love a big, I love a heavy bottle.
Foilless since 2007.
But you're right. But foil is it's pointless.
Right.
And we should be using screw caps. The Australians figure that shit out because cork tank. You're gonna save so many bottles. But so, it's that ritual.
But if there is an opportunity for us to bring some change into this business in a really positive way, that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. Sweet. And I think the screw caps are actually a really good potential model for people's acceptance of a lot of other packages. You think of what happened when you started seeing some of the top Australians and New Zealand
was the first to do a screw cap in the States.
Adam Lee with his Clarice.
Yeah.
They're all like $95 Pinot Noirs, all screw cap.
Right. And it went from being like exotic to being a statement to being something that nobody even comments on.
Right. Practical. Right.
Yeah. And I think obviously there are wines where if you're going to be laying in a cellar for a decade, nobody's come up with something which will match a glass bottle. Right. There are other things that we should be doing. We should be figuring out a circular economy so that bottles can be washed and reused. But what's the stats? 95% of all wines are drunk within 48 hours of when they're purchased. I think
it's the average bottle. It's 8 hours from purchase to consumption or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, 48 hours because people don't drink like we drink.
Sometimes they don't go to the grocery store every day.
Exactly.
They do drink wine every day.
But even if it was common knowledge that you could put a great box of Jason's wine in your refrigerator and you could safely have an amazing glass of wine, one glass of wine for a month, and it's delicious and it stays fresh.
Yeah.
I think that people will buy that, but that needs to be a more widely understood fact, which is why you need to market the idea.
Yes, and when I'm coming, I met a guy in 97 who was I maybe just started in wine, and was at my law professor's party, and he knew I worked in wine, and this guy was 97, said, box wine. It is the best because the Mylar bag seals it. It keeps the air out. It actually is the best wine preservation system if you just want to have a glass or two a night. You know what I mean? So it makes sense.
And I think there's an angle there for the wholesale. But if you have a wine by the glass at a restaurant, I mean, I don't know if it hasn't happened maybe yet, but wouldn't you rather it's coming out of a box so you know that glass is as fresh every single time? Even if you have that same wine by the bottle in that same restaurant, have it by. That's the interesting thing that has started happening with the cans for us this year is there was a restaurant in New Jersey that didn't want to have a rosé by the glass, or just, the rosé by the glass in the wintertime is wasted. They pour one glass, a week goes by, and they'll throw the bottle away. So they're doing buy the can rosé. You buy a can, that's your glass of wine. It's a little bit more. You feel like you get a deal, and it's fresh every time, right?
Yeah.
There was a startup 15 plus years ago called the 20, and they were doing bagged wine. But what they did is they had nicely finished wood boxes, or they also had like ammo boxes, and they had like a Guinness type tap on it, and it was meant to sit on the back bar. It had a place for the marketing, and it was a great idea, great delivery system. The problem is that a lot of places didn't want to give up the back bar space. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the example that we have, having done keg wines for so long, has been a really helpful one for this. And I remember when we were first testing out the kegs, we got a keg back that had been taken off of the tap system and sent back to us. I think it had been stashed under their bar for 6 months and then sent back to us because they just needed the keg deposit back. But we were at that, whatever, wine directors change. Anyway, but it came back to us, and it had clearly been out at least 6 months, and it could have been as long as a year and a half based on the vintage that it was. And we were like, well, I'm sure it hasn't been refrigerated, it hasn't really been taken care of. We should see how the wine is. So we tapped it and poured a glass, and it was like we just opened a fresh bottle.
Wow.
And for us, it was such a proof of concept that, like, so many of the wines that you order by the glass at restaurants are oxidized because the wine's just sitting out at restaurant temperature for a couple of days. And if there is a way around that, it's not just that you're being more environmentally sensitive. You're offering value to the customer and to the account that's pouring that because they're wasting less.
Right. So you won't have what was the article recently about the $17 glass of wine? Right. And, and the varieties of wine, right? How many different producers? So you can have small producers, you can have great people, not just the usual suspects. Yeah. Right.
Totally.
I mean, we work with a restaurant called 60 Vines, which is a small restaurant chain. I think there's 5 or 6 locations, mostly in the Southeast. And they have 40 wines by the glass, all on tap.
Right.
And they go through all kinds of cool exotic stuff because they don't need to go through 6-8 glasses a day in order to make it viable. So they can have a wider range of stuff, and it's super cool.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of potential. And again, Stanley Mass on the side of my box of wine.
See what got you thinking
right?
about it, don't I?
$95. That's the part that I like too.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason and Barb.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
This has been great. Have a great rest of your show.
We'll get you again in real life. For a real long
when you come out to New York or something, I'll have to come visit you in Paso.
You'd be welcome.
You guys are both like fighting for his time.
Totally.
Yeah. I was listening.
Or the wine that he's going to bring when he gets there.
Exactly, man.
Because we're missing that right now.
Yes.
No topless on this table.
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for supporting Free the Grapes. I mean, it's a great mission to be a part of. It helps all of us.
Yep.
And it's just a pleasure to be able to be here.
Free the Grapes.
Thank you.
Drink more Tablas Creek.
The best part is the witty banter.
Yes.
Are you catching it? You getting this? Okay, good. We're recording.
We had to let you get into place.
Oh, okay.
Make sure that your makeup's right
I
for
don't
the
makeup, man.
show. And
I wake
stuff.
up this pretty.
You wake up.
Hey, me too.
It is.
Me too.
You feeling a little jet lag at all?
No. This is actually because I'm doing a quick turnaround. This will be an easy trip, And I just jacked up when I come to California because it's just wine.
Really? I couldn't tell.
I thought it was just for the internet.
Yeah. Are we good?
We are good.
Okay.
We're recording, Ben.
Nice. All right. So we're sitting here with Ross Halleck. He is the proprietor of Halleck Vineyards. I met Ross. Here's how I met Ross through his PR team. Somehow his PR guy found me and invited me to a dinner at Gramercy Tavern. I'd never had his wines. Never heard of him. I never heard of Halleck, but he makes Pinot Noir primarily. He makes a dry Zin. I'll tell him, but he makes a dry Zin. Made a Chardonnay that was really killer. So I got invited to this incredible dinner at Gramercy, and then my wife's like, "You're going to?" It was on a Saturday night. She's like, "I was like, let me see if I didn't know Ross, so I was like, I messaged him, and he was graciously allowed me to bring his wife and be with some of his wine club members at a wonderful dinner and try his wines. And so, I'm just here, and I saw him here. Eric said hi to me, and I was like, oh, I know you. Had at my car, like, it's Ross. So I was like, yo, I got my buddies who are from Sonoma. I can't believe you guys don't know each other, but this is incredible.
Well, you said to me, do you know the
Ross
name Ross
Halleck?
Halleck?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know the name. I feel like I should know him, but we haven't met. And so nice to meet you and welcome.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to meet you too, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, man. So like, how did you obviously you do, we talk about your wine club, you do DTC, but how did you get started in wine? What were you doing before you were in wine, Ross?
Well, I chose wine as my drug of choice in my mid-20s, so I'm not sure when I started in wine as a career, but I was a brand strategist in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
I started as a graphic designer, and then Silicon Valley grew up around me, and I sort of rode the rising tide of Silicon Valley. I became a brand strategist.
And so let's give us an era.
I worked in the early days of HP, Apple, Activision, 3Com.
That's the time.
There we go. 3Com. 3Com Park, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I worked with Bob Metcalf. I did the first logo for 3Com. So we're talking 1980s, early 80s.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When Apple was, a building on the corner here and there throughout Cupertino.
Yeah. And I had a little office in downtown Palo Alto, which was this sleepy kind of college town adjacent to Stanford.
Right.
Totally. Hanging out at Ricky's Hyatt.
That's right.
And so what were the wines that you kind of cut your teeth on? What were the things that made you kind of want to dive deeper into wine?
Well, that is a great question. I lived in Kenya for a few years, and I met a young man at the time who moved to Palo Alto, and he was from England, and he opened a restaurant in San Jose. And he invited me in those early days to taste some wines as he was opening up his restaurant. And I got introduced to William Sellium, to Calera Selleck, Calera Jensen. And I realized that Pinot Noir was like a path to God. And that just knocked me out. Yeah. And I had been introduced.
That's like Burt Williams. Williams.
Right.
That's like legit William Sellium.
So I had been introduced in Kenya because Kenya was a British colony, and so there was a lot of French wines there. So I'd been introduced to Burgundy, and I couldn't afford it, but I had some friends who were friends of this guy that I met in Kenya who owned the best restaurant in Kenya, the Tamarind Group, and they had Burgundy, and I thought Burgundy was awesome. And then I tasted this Pinot Noir from California. I didn't know there was a connection, and I thought, oh, this is really wine.
And I can almost afford it.
Well, see, because I was invited to these events,
right, exactly.
I didn't have to afford it.
I've always said the best Burgundy is
Ross.
other people's Burgundy.
I don't go to Gramercy Tavern, but on like some agency's dime or some winery's dime.
Down with the OPP, other people's Pinot.
Shout out to Andre Mac. Yeah, that's amazing. So you're riding the wave, and like, did you dive right in and did you purchase some grapes to decide to make some wine? Did you buy some land? What was like kind of like the path to Halleck Vineyards?
Well, I like to live by the motto, it's better to be lucky than smart. And so,
clearly, here we are.
And here we are.
So I was, I bought a little house in Menlo Park, California, just a total fixer-upper built in 1928. It was before Silicon Valley was really Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. And, I fixed up the house and all of a sudden, on paper, I became a very wealthy man by my own standards, having moved to California being on food stamps. Yeah. And
we need a whole episode with Ron.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was working in the wine industry and working in Silicon Valley. Those were my clients, just because I thought, gosh, if I'm doing marketing and graphic design, and I'd rather work for wineries. I love the technology ideas. So I was working. So I was kind of bifurcated, and then it reached a point where I said, well, I can either live in Silicon Valley and commute to wine country, or live in wine country and commute to Silicon Valley. And so I put my house on the market, which was like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on kind of a postage stamp lot in Menlo Park. And I was able to trade it pretty much straight across for 4 acres in a brand new house in Sebastopol, which nobody had ever heard of. And
what year is this?
Yeah. This is 1990.
Okay.
And we planted
those were the days.
Right. We planted the very first vineyard in West Sonoma County. And I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, we ordered the rootstock out of the yellow pages. And, those of us who remember the yellow pages. And
that's so That's awesome.
And again,
I've been to that website.
And
did you look under R for rootstock?
G or G for grapevine?
It was under nursery.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was probably Nova Vine or something.
Right?
Yeah.
And there were big display ads. We went to the little one-liners.
They can afford an ad in this book.
Yeah.
I can't afford their product.
And one of the first one-liners in the columns was a guy named James Caldwell, who's become a legend. But we called him up, and he had some rootstock from Dijon, and he came out and talked to us, and I mean, he just sold us on these 3 clones, 777, 667, and 115 that we put on our 1 acre,
right.
And
the 3 classic Burgundy clones.
Yeah, and nobody had planted out there before, and. Again, in the theme of lucky rather than lucky than smart, our kids, by that time, we planted the vineyard with the hope that we could sell the fruit. That was the big vision. Didn't know if it would even produce. Excuse me. And we could sell the fruit and pay for the agriculture, maybe have a little left over for the college education of our then infant son. We had 3 sons by the time that vineyard actually produced fruit. It took 6 years, and at
gotta do something. Someone was fruitful.
And are great.
Yeah, right.
0 grapes, 3 children.
Well,
actually, probably less expensive.
And our kids were going to school with these kids from these kids whose parents included this guy named Greg LaFollette, and Greg. And so Greg was.
He's got a group of kids.
He's got a group of kids. Yeah, it wasn't hard to hit one of the ages. And we met, and he just fell all over us wanting to buy our fruit, and made our first vintage with our name on it, and it won #1 Pinot Noir in the United States right out of the gate. And we decided that being a brand guy,
late 90s by then.
This is late 90s. Okay. The vintage was 2001 that he produced the fruit. We'd sold the fruit a couple of years, and then he asked to buy the fruit, and then he put our name on it, and that was 2001. Mm. And then we agreed that he wouldn't have to pay for that fruit if he would be our winemaker, because guess what? I was a brand guy. So I thought we win #1 Pinot Noir in the United States. That seems to be, the provenance required to build a
Yeah,
brand.
it's a no-brainer to have them stay your winemaker there.
Yeah.
So for reference, where is the vineyard? What for
So it's
like everybody knows downtown Sebastopol. What road are you on?
So we're out in West Sebastopol near Freestone. So I'll pretend everybody knows where Freestone is.
Sure.
So it's halfway between, let's say, Highway 101 heading up through Santa Rosa, and maybe 2/3 of the way to the Pacific Ocean. I think people know where the Pacific Ocean is. Right. And so, we can
I've
see
hit some golf balls into it.
So we can see the Pacific Ocean from our property, and we can also see Mount St. Helena over in Napa County.
I got a good idea. Where
So you're also up on, you have a little bit of elevation.
Yeah, we're at almost 900 feet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's beautiful out there.
Oh gosh, I pinch myself every day. Yeah, it's pretty.
The
pretty
little fixer up in
And
Menlo Park to a view of the Pacific Ocean and Mount St. Helena.
You're right. In 1990, West Sonoma County was still relatively undiscovered.
It was all apples.
And there were those tracts of properties that were deals. Like if you lived I grew up in Petaluma, and we used to always think that if you wanted to buy your first house, you could go to Sebastopol and buy your first house because it was far enough off 101. Right?
Exactly.
Commuter corridor.
Yeah, it was a schlep, as we like to say.
I speak that language.
So tell us, you're here today for a reason. What brought you to the conference?
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've had the unique distinction of winning #1 Pinot Noir in the United States a number of times now. And in the early days, it was, the Pinot Noir Summit, kind of a small competition. But, then we went on to win the #1 Pinot, or the best of class, actually, in the Chronicle a couple of times. And so it's reinforced our position as a luxury brand, which, to be honest, has to do with scarcity.
Yep.
And so we make, we sell all the wines that we make, and it is primarily direct to consumer. Over 80% is direct to consumer. And with the, advancing and rapid shift to digital and to more and more personalization and more ability to connect with our customers, we are here to learn about that and to leverage some of the latest ability to achieve intimacy. Right. And I think that's sort of the key to both establishing and maintaining a luxury brand, and also to growing a direct-to-consumer relationship, is increased intimacy.
Did you leak the transcript to our talk tomorrow?
There'd have to be a transcript, MJ.
Happy to contribute.
All that preparation, weeks of careful planning,
months of planning.
So glad you guys reinvented the wheel.
We're in so much trouble.
Barb's like, she loves us. Fortunately, she just rolled her eyes.
No, we're here.
She's like, and I'm not. I don't believe these people. But Barb's like, no, these guys are geniuses. We don't think that, but thank you for that. Thank you for that vote of confidence.
Pretty sure
Barb.
we're here to make all the other keynote speakers look really good.
Well, Ross, man, we got to get together and do a podcast proper when you come to New York.
I'll be there in March.
Okay, you got to get me the date, so I'll book the studio and we'll set it up. Need 2 hours. I mean, we've had cross guests. I had Murray, Breland, and you got, but they're right in Sonoma. You should go sit down with them for a proper pod.
Bring some wine.
Bring
Happy
some
to do that.
Yeah. You got to bring.
I would have today if I'd known.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know you were gonna. I didn't know. I mean, never mind. It's all. I could have looked in the app, right? I was gonna play myself. I didn't know who was gonna be here.
Actually, I didn't know I was going to be here till this morning either. Yeah, so this was a
Neither
last
did
minute.
Months of planning.
I mean, a little shout out to this event. That app is incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
As far as networking.
Yep.
And figuring out who's here, and you can send them messages, and there's all sorts of questions and polls. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it brings the whole what was great about conferences being digital.
Yeah.
Into the real world. It's cool.
Yeah. But man, it's your wines are phenomenal.
How do people find them?
Yeah.
Quick, the social media. Is there a tasting room?
So it's halleckvineyard.com. Okay. That's vineyard without an S. Okay. So HALLECK and vineyard without an S.com. We do have a tasting room. It's my home, so it's very personal. It's obviously by appointment, and getting back to that intimacy theme, there's nothing more intimate than sitting in the winemaker's home and sharing wine. And we have emphasized that now 20 years. We've been serving people out of my dining room.
Awesome.
Right on.
Right on, man.
Well, congratulations. And, hope you enjoy
and thanks
the
again, man.
And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I just was talking to Jeremy Benson this morning, and this conference has been going on for 16 years. I went to this conference first 14 years ago, and it was me and 3 other women and all white old dudes. And it was crazy because I was like looking around and I was thinking, this can't be like wine marketing, really? And I had just moved here from Chicago after having worked for Leo Burnett, and I'm like, oh man, this needs work. And walking around the conference this morning, I see a lot of really amazing young people.
Bart and I said it's easily 70% female in there.
Absolutely. Lots and
Easily.
lots of
Yep.
women. And, not everybody's all the same shade. And everybody is like, it's so much different than it was when we started this. And I think that's reflective of the wine business in general, in terms of becoming a lot more inclusive, a lot more ideas.
And I always say, Barbara, I think the wine business got thrown under the bus a little bit by being uninclusive. But the fact is, at least in production, in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't a lot of women, but the wine wasn't cool in the 80s and 90s. Like people weren't really into it. Not like it is now. I mean, it's not. Wine is everywhere now. Wine is in commercials. It's on TV shows.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's product placement. But
the whole industry has just grown up a lot since then.
I think so, but I also look at the women that were there, the Mary Edwards of the world.
They had to battle for everything they did.
Kathy Corson,
Heidi Barrett.
Yeah. I mean, there were women out there that were swinging.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them were on the production side.
Absolutely. And I'm saying that they were there and they had to fight for it.
That's we're more saying I want to big up those women. Like I say to I'm like you they don't get enough credit.
No, it's amazing.
And that kind of irks me a little bit. That, like a lot of things on my podcast, I'd like to connect like the old school with the new school because there have been people putting in the work.
No, I mean, I was fortunate enough to meet Mary Edwards at a Catholic Charities event, and she ponied up. She got Sonoma Valley Vintners to do $1 million for homeless and to get. I mean, it's like, so those women are still out there swinging and still making wine and great wines.
Yeah, and for all those new female winemakers out there, there's some real inspirational people for them to identify.
Do a little research,
and that's, I'm trying to give credit to.
Yeah, we're giving
because again, the first cellar I worked in, all male, and a woman would have been disgusted working in the cellar with us. And then I started working at a winery where there were some women in the cellar, and they had to fight to be included in things, and it was that mindset.
And on the marketing side, I went to meetings that were crazy, right? I went to meetings with guys who shall remain nameless who said, well, the man owns the wine club because he's got the credit card. And I'm sitting there going, you're making this up, right? I'm like, if mom isn't getting the Chardonnay that she likes, you're out. And then the other one was like, well, my nephew got a degree in marketing from Davis and he's in the basement doing social media. And I'm like, oh man, it's like, there's a lot of work to do here. But long story short, the direct-to-consumer wine symposium has progressed. I see, representation across media that's really important. And as I've worked with Jeremy Benson and Steve Gross and a lot of people who have given time and talent and effort to making it more inclusive and more forward-thinking, because I mean we still have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do in the wine business because, I mean, frankly, it's such a magical category. There's so many people who do great wines and and it's poetic and it's imaginative and you can do really cool things if we just open our minds and we get younger people in to do a better job.
Buy
with
$95 box of wine.
Right.
Look, yeah.
Barb's on that.
So anyway, I'll keep swinging.
I mean, I thought it was really fascinating when Steve Gross said that, or pointed out the fact that in the mid '80s there was no direct to consumer business.
Right? Yeah.
No,
I mean, direct to consumer was come pick it up at the winery, and if you need to get it home, you figure out how to get it home.
Yeah. And today there are people from all kinds of backgrounds, and I go down and I went to Paso and saw amazing winemakers down there, and then up in Walla Walla, and it's a community of people. Even though it's very disparate, they have this mindset that's like, it will blow your mind because it's all about imagination and poetry and really, really getting into the flavor. And it's hard to make wine at a high level. It's time consuming and difficult and expensive. People put their hearts and souls into it. And so we just have to make consumers care more. And the way that we need to make consumers care more is by doing better marketing. And as the last gentleman was pointing out, something that's more intimate that gets you involved with the product.
Right. Cool. I mean, this is, I'm so happy to be here. This is always a conference that I've seen, the promotion for and seen from afar. I knew there was important things happening. It also conflicts with my going to Eco Farm when I get just to go be a hippie organic farmer on the coast, which also is probably why I've never made it. But I mean, really, the people who listen to our shows who aren't on the industry side, they're all the consumers that we're talking about in these rooms. They're people who love the interesting, poetic, creative wines, and the only way to get them is direct. I mean, that's the only way that it works for any of us, right?
And making those businesses happen. Yeah. I was during the pandemic, I had so many people that reached out to me because they knew I was in this world. It's like, what can we do? And people were supporting people digitally, and that's why that's really important to continue that, because it is supporting farming at a really foundational level.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Thanks, Barb.
Cool. Happy to be here.
Appreciate you.
And come next year. You see it?
I hope so.
Yeah,
come next year and then go to you.
Well, that remains to be seen. So we'll know around like 9:46 a.m. tomorrow. We'll know if we're coming back.
Invited back.
Well, we'll see. I'm pretty confident.
I appreciate your confidence, however misplaced it may be.
I can't wait to hear the results.
Yeah, it's streaming live somewhere, I think. Right on. Shout outs. Happy birthday, Philippe Combi.
Happy birthday, Philippe Combi.
This wine is amazing.
Thank you.
Delicious.
This is one of the last. It's probably the last Auto Tet that he actually tasted. Isabella brought a sample home.
Nice.
So happy to get it out into the world.
Cheers to friends who aren't here.
Yeah, cheers to friends who couldn't make it. Yeah.
And I'm gonna, since it's gonna be on my platform, I'm gonna say, make sure you check out this the show notes. That's where we'll put the links to the guests we had. And cheers to all the Mavericks, the deep thinkers, and all you wine drinkers. It's your boy MJ. Peace.
See ya.
We can't top that outro. All right. Do whatever MJ says. All right.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.